the ranking member, the senator of Kakamega. Mr. Speaker, two points of orders. One, I don't need to apologize to anybody because my facts are unanswered. I said if there is a way we can have conversation about internship payments in this country. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I'm rising on Standing Order 101. Mr. Speaker, Standing Order 101 talks that you cannot talk about another member of parliament who is not. No senator shall impute improper motive to any other senator or to a member of the National Assembly, except upon a specific substantive motion of which at least 3 days' notice has been given, calling into question the conduct of that senator or member of National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, Senator Boni Khalwale cannot be allowed to be making sweeping statements. These are House of Rules and Orders. Did you listen? Trying to discuss the member of National Assembly of Kiharu constituency, Mr. Speaker, creating a perception among the eyes of Kenyans that instead of doing his job as chairperson of Budgets and Appropriation Committee, he is doing politics. Is it in order, without bringing a substantive motion to discuss on the conduct of member of National Assembly, Kiharu member of Parliament, National Assembly, is Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, Mr. Speaker? In as much as he has his opinion about him or whatever he does, Mr. Speaker, our standing orders guide us at any given. Can the senator of Kakamega withdraw and apologize? Because tomorrow somebody else will come and discuss another member of National Assembly or even the conduct of another person who they are not here to defend himself, Mr. Speaker. I know he has been getting away with many of the things, creating snipes against colleagues, and Mr. Speaker, Senator Boni Khalwale should behave like a majority chief whip. Unless he is the majority chief whip in government but in opposition, he should choose sides. You cannot be having your cake and eat it, Mr. Speaker. Your point, Senator, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's just that the distinguished senator for Nandi came in at the tail end of my contribution. He would have seen that I did not raise anything substantive about the member of parliament for Kiharu. I know the rules. You came in at the tail end. But, Mr. Speaker, having said like that, I don't know why it is occurring to the distinguished senator to become the barometer to measure how somebody should serve when he is in the office of the government whip. Mr. Speaker, the positions that people have in this country, Mr. Speaker, they are earned. You are here as a senator because you won in Bomet. Cherargei, you are here as a senator because you won in Nandi. I'm here for the same reason. And the fact that I became the chief whip, my brother, yes, it is because of the contribution I made to form the government. You did not invite me to the government. I made my contribution. And therefore, if you think my contribution does not meet the position I hold today, then please kindly go and justify that you contributed more than me. I don't think there's a single vote you added to William Ruto because all the votes in Nandi, Ruto was going to get anyway.
Senator Boni.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I conclude by telling my brother, for the very final time, if we must remind you, be reminded that for you to become the professional you are, it matched your IQ, intelligence quotient. And for those doctors who you're belittling to become doctors, it matched their intelligence quotient. And for your information, Mr. Speaker,
Senator Boni,
your IQ, the IQ of a
Senator
doctor
Boni,
is above 100 foot,
Senator Boni,
if you know what that means.
Senator Boni Khalwale.
Yeah.
Senator Cherargei, resume your seat. Senator Boni Khalwale, you have concluded your comments, I believe. If not, I will direct that you conclude your comments on it. Senator Cherargei, allow Senator Boni to just conclude.
Yeah.
Allow Senator Holly to. Honorable Senators, order, Honorable Senators, order, Honorable Senators, order, Honorable Senators. Order, Senators. Order, Honorable Senators. I believe you all know the emotiveness of this discussion that we have had. And I am seeing the interest. Senator Boli, resume your seat. And I'll not allow you to speak any further. I will allow only one more member from either side to speak to these statements. We have expended over 1 hour on this particular statement. I will allow one member from either side, then we progress to deal with other matters in this particular assignment. Senator Boli. Order, Senator Boni. Senator Manzo, you already spoke to this. Then the next person is Sen.Eddy.
Thank you. Sen.Eddy. Hey, I've been waiting. Senator Lwale, I was protecting you. Can you protect me by listening? Senator Lwale, now
order, Senators. Order, Senators. Allow Sen.Eddy to be heard in silence. Proceed, Sen.Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, since I got into this house, there is no day I have tried to disparage or in any way belittle any report from any committee or from any individuals who have been given tasks on any issue in this house. But, Mr. Speaker, I must say that the thought expressed by the Committee of Health in this particular document has disappointed me. And it has disappointed me because, Mr. Speaker, I really need your attention. Because the noise I'm hearing here is interfering with my thought process.
Order, Senator Omogeni. Order, Senator Chute.
Mr. Speaker.
Please allow Sen.Eddy to be heard in silence.
Mr. Speaker, what we're talking about is so serious that if Senator Mogeni was to get himself in trouble now and go to KNH or Arabi Hospital, he will suffer and will have to be sent to Dubai. And I don't think he has got the money to go to Dubai. So, Mr. Speaker, the reason why I'm saying I'm very disappointed by this particular document, because this document, Mr. Speaker, chooses to address the various unions of medical and health practitioners to go and sit again and solve their problems. Mr. Speaker, may you protect me from Senator Cherargei? Cherargei is consulting in a very loud voice, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the challenges bedeviling the health services today in Kenya, for which the medical and healthcare workers in this country are having this strike, at the heart of it is the conflicting relationship between county government and the national government. And therefore, when we get an opportunity as a Senate to pronounce ourselves to these matters, Mr. Speaker, we must pronounce ourselves to the extent that we are bold, we are courageous, and we can be able to make resolutions, not mere recommendations, for people to go and sit and further negotiate. And I've read all the responses here to the different medical unions. Mr. Speaker, if you look at recommendation number 6 here, it says that MOH and KPMDU to negotiate on the internship issue with a possibility of adopting a phased approach. Mr. Speaker, this is what the KPMDU and MOH have been doing for the last months. Mr. Speaker, recommendation number 5 is that MOH to finalize the execution of MOUs between universities and teaching hospitals with regards to matters affecting registrars. Recommendation number 4 is that KPMDU to reopen negotiations with the MOH and county governments. Number 3 is that regarding outstanding issues of harmonization of terms of service, Mr. Speaker, we as a Senate are telling the Kenya Health Human Resource Advisory Council to make recommendations for implementing in a progressive and a phased manner. Mr. Speaker, what are we saying as a Senate? Are we throwing our hands in the air, Mr. Speaker? By the time these issues of strikes were coming to us, and thank God, I think that from the conversation that the COG had yesterday with the different bodies, with the different unions, Mr. Speaker, I think there's a chance that they could be able to agree on a few things here and there. But, Mr. Speaker, what we have seen in the last few months of this contestation is that all those bodies have failed. So that it is the Senate that must pronounce itself in this issue with finality and not recommendations. It has to be resolutions of the Senate. And number 2, if the Senate cannot be able to make these things a substantive resolution, then we invite the President of this country, Mr. Speaker, to make a pronouncement that is with finality. Because, Mr. Speaker, when I look at the issues that the doctors are talking about in this country, Mr. Speaker, what do they touch, Mr. Speaker? And we know Senator Sifuna said here that it seems like we don't understand these interns and medical doctors. At least let's show that we understand what they are crying about. That one we can because it is very well stated in this document, right? Let us show that we understand what they're talking about. Mr. Speaker, number 1 issue is that they're talking about posting and remuneration of medical interns. They're talking about provision of comprehensive medical cover for doctors. A doctor is treating everyone, and they cannot be able to afford the same medicine that they're giving other people. They're talking about, Mr. Speaker, involvement of doctors in universal health coverage. We have got a coverage that we are trying to have to reach everybody in this country, and the doctors have got no voice in it. Mr. Speaker, how is this difficult to understand? They are talking about salary arrears that have been there since 2017, Mr. Speaker, that has not been given to them. What is so hard about understanding that? The doctors are talking about support for career development. In other countries, Mr. Speaker, if you were to look at what we call the scheme of service for doctors, Mr. Speaker, it is so clear that a Senate like where I find myself today, Mr. Speaker, will be very elaborate about what scheme of service we must start giving our doctors and health practitioners in this country, Mr. Speaker. Today, if you look at our doctors, Mr. Speaker, in the scheme of service, even the most revised one, there is not well-defined career structures for these doctors, Mr. Speaker. A doctor goes, after graduating, they go to where they have been given opportunity to work, whether it is in public hospital or private hospital, but there is no clear career structure, Mr. Speaker. In this country today, Mr. Speaker, apart from careers, Mr. Speaker, there is no well-defined JDs for these doctors, Mr. Speaker. You have studied very well a specific function as a doctor, but then when you're put in an hospital, there is no clearly defined JD for you. You might even find yourself as a very well serious surgeon being put to be a provider of simple Panadol, Mr. Speaker.
To summarize your
I'm summarizing, Mr. Speaker. And what I was expecting the Senate to present itself to, Mr. Speaker, in terms of this scheme of service, we wanted to see specification of responsibility for doctors in this country and how those responsibilities are mirrored in the pay that they get, Mr. Speaker. We want to see that the standard of recruitment of doctors, Mr. Speaker, is also looked at in the scheme of service. We cannot have a country whereby even those interns, for them to be employed, they must know Cherargei, or they must know Sen.Eddy Oketch, or they must know Mugatana. Is when they get to be recruited. It cannot continue happening in this country, Mr. Speaker. Training and reskilling of doctors, Mr. Speaker. We are in a place whereby in other countries people are using nanotechnology, Mr. Speaker, in terms of healthcare advancement. And then in the Senate, we don't speak about these things. These are what the doctors are crying about, Mr. Speaker. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, the doctors are requesting and urging us that can you look at our scheme of service in terms of advancement, in terms of succession management, in terms of even career planning, Mr. Speaker. How is it hard for this Senate to develop directive resolutions for the doctor, Mr. Speaker? So I stand here as a young person disappointed that we got an opportunity as a Senate to pronounce ourselves to this matter, and we lost that opportunity because we did not give directive resolutions that can be able to rethink the entire healthcare infrastructure of this country, which is devolved under Schedule 4 entirely to devolve functions. It is our mandate, and I want to wish the chairs of different devolved functions in this house, be courageous, be bold when it comes to devolved functions. You can make bolder pronouncements than what you have seen here. I hope that the doctors will listen to Senator Sifuna and listen to me, that just go back to work and hope that one day, sooner than later, a government will come in place to listen to your cries. But I also hope that the president has seen how the Senate has failed the doctors, and probably the president can be bolder and come to endorse some of these schemes of services that the doctors want to be solved. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And lastly, I will allow Senator Roba to conclude on this statement, comments.